Now on to what appears as item 10 in our agenda, the report of the General Secretary. Thank you very much, Seamus.
Good afternoon, President and Congress. Before I begin, I'd like to congratulate the President on an excellent speech this morning.
Thank you.
And as you can imagine, there wasn't left much for me to speak about, because he covered most of the issues. But let's say, I'd also like to, just while we've got a few seconds, everybody's here, is to thank all the staff for all the arrangements and supporting and organising the Congress here. It is an honour and a privilege to be standing here and addressing you for the second time. I can't believe how quickly the last year has gone past. I've watched, I've listened, and hopefully learnt a great deal about the Scottish education system in this last year. But what I do know is how important the role of the SSTA has in the future of Scottish education. The Scottish Government election is done, but the real work is to begin in terms of shaping the future of education in Scotland. Scotland is at a crossroads, and we need to make sure it takes the right path for our young people. Our association must be part of that future and must be prepared to engage and work with all of those who care about education in shaping the future of Scottish education. Scotland has a good education system with great schools and teachers. Our pupils are achieving record exam passes, and a record number of young people are leaving school to go into positive destinations. This is not me saying this, but this was in the SNP, the government, in its manifesto. It goes on to say, but we need to do more. It is unacceptable that too many children from our less advantaged areas achieve less at school because of their background. The SSTA agrees with this, but we need to be part of that, setting that direction. There are still areas of the education system in Scotland that need to be addressed. The government needs to see teachers, and I said this last year, as part of the solution and not part of the problem. The teacher in the classroom needs to be listened to and trusted to deliver the education system for the future. We welcome the government's commitment to protecting the education maintenance allowance that will help young people stay in education. We welcome the commitment to increase the number of students from deprived areas in higher education at a place in university for all the care leavers who meet the basic requirements, and also offering them a full bursary. We also welcome the review of education provision from 16 to 24-year-olds, so that learning provides more stepping stones to success for those needing the most support. However, we do have concerns with the government's proposed direction of travel in some areas. And to be fair, we have not had the opportunity for these discussions with the government at this point in time, but these are some of the issues that we need to be aware of. But what I have got to say is I've not heard from teachers or their trade unions clamouring for some of the proposals included within the manifesto. We do agree the need for to be prepared to tackle child poverty and educational underachievement. Every child needs to see education as a way forward, and teachers need to lead and to be given the support in meeting the needs of their young people in their schools. The attainment challenge needs to focus on the family and support the family before education begins, during and after formal education has come to an end. The school does make a difference, but it can't do it on its own. It is necessary that all groups of young people that have barriers to accessing education are identified and supported throughout the education system. All local services need to be working together, and the government needs to foster joined-up thinking within local authorities and across local authorities. We welcome the £750 million announced for the Attainment Challenge and the intention to include more local authorities, and also to extend it to secondary schools. This was an issue we raised with the Minister last year. But we do have concerns about the money being delivered direct to schools and an area-based approach to raising attainment. This would appear to undermine the role of the local authority and put additional and sometimes unwanted pressure, responsibility and bureaucracy on teachers and head teachers in schools. We need a wide vision of learning and achievement, and the Curriculum for Excellence is moving us in the right direction. But it needs to be broad, balanced, flexible and inclusive. It needs to meet the aspirations of all our young people. CFE is the way forward, but teachers need to be trusted and given the freedom to make it work. Unfortunately, the cuts in education and the shortage of teachers have and will continue to create a narrowing of the curriculum. This will lead to some of our young people disengaging with education, and that will create problems for us in our schools. In terms of qualifications, SSTA members have always wanted to do the best for their young people in their classes, and have always gone over and beyond to ensure the qualification system worked for their young people and they didn't lose out. But the qualifications and assessments need to be fit for the teaching and learning and not the other way round. Teachers' professional judgment must be respected and not tested at every opportunity. The government must be prepared to deliver on its commitment to focus on embedding curriculum for excellence across S1 to S3 and ensure that the assessment is proportionate and appropriate for S3 onwards. Unfortunately, little progress has been made to relieve this burden, and the SSTA has had no choice but to move to an indicative ballot of its members for judicial action against excessive and unreasonable workload. The ballot was launched yesterday about this time, 3 o'clock yesterday. And I slipped out a bit earlier just to see what the state of the returns were. Up till just before 3 o'clock, we'd had nearly 20% of our members had replied. When they were asked a question about tackling workload and the document that the government produced last year, 96% of our members said it hadn't made a difference to their workload. When it came to the SQA and the measures that were proposed to relieve the pressure in this year, in this coming year, 16 to 17, 95% of our members are not confident that these changes will make a difference to their workload. When it came to the last two questions, are you prepared to take strike action? At the moment, 70% of our members are saying they're prepared to take strike action over this. But when it comes to action short of strike action, it's 91% in favour of taking action short of strike action. Now, those figures are as of 3 o'clock today. The ballot has got another best part of 2 weeks to run, and I would encourage you to make sure all our members voice their views on those issues. Obviously, depending on the outcome of this indicative ballot, the National Executive will determine what the next step will be and whether we move towards an official ballot for industrial action. All children need qualified teachers, and I reinforce the commitment of the GTCS to ensure only recognised qualified teachers teach in schools in Scotland. But the government must ensure that teachers have regular and meaningful and continuing entitlement to professional development. This must not be only to meet the needs of the school, the development of a subject area, but more importantly, the teacher's professional and long-term career development. The funds for professional development must be protected for all teachers at all levels, including supply teachers. That's if we want to deliver a professional and adaptable teaching workforce for the 21st century. Not as one SSTA member was asked recently, and this is quote, "Due to the current financial climate, staff would be asked to contribute £50 towards the cost of their training." Or as a government officer suggested recently, that moderation and quality assurance training could be covered over a number of weekends. I think we know you can't take much more of things being taken for granted in terms of teachers' time. We welcome the government's commitment to maintain teacher numbers and continue to invest in teachers and head teachers. And we'll be interested to see the recruitment methods to address particular subject and local shortage and develop new routes into teaching to help to attract the brightest and best graduates to train to be teachers. But the government is failing to address the fundamental issue of teachers' pay. The government needs to address the cuts in teachers' pay over the last few years, and it needs to show a commitment to reward teachers for the work already done and the challenges ahead. This must mean a substantial increase in pay in the coming year to retain those that we've got and attract new teachers. Scottish teachers are falling behind, and today a teacher at the top of an unpromoted teaching scale in England is £2,108 better off, and that's with a pay increase possibly coming in September. We need to make teaching an attractive profession to encourage the retention of the high quality teachers we have and recruit the highest quality people into the profession. Unfortunately, the damage over the last few years caused by cuts to education funding needs to be undone, and a number of areas, including workload, still need to be addressed to deliver a high quality profession. The career structure for teachers needs to be reviewed. We need to build on the existing structure, particularly our faculty leaders, to allow stepping stones for our members to move into leadership positions. I was a faculty head leader in a school in London for the best part of 20 years. The job is difficult enough, but you need support from those colleagues below, and you need people to take responsibility to assist you in some of those exercises. Now, I believe that we need to review this, and we need to look at it quite closely in the coming months. The local authorities are part of our good education system. There is a need for a sustainable education system to support schools with local authorities entrusted and responsible for schools. The decision by 4 local authorities to leave COSLA did not lead to the breakdown of national conditions, but now they should return to COSLA. However, other suggestions by the government may undermine local democracy. Other suggestions by the government may undermine local democratic authority control and could threaten the whole education system in Scotland. Proposals such as to give head teachers, parents and communities more responsibility for the schools in their areas and encourage them to work together in clusters where appropriate. To extend to individual schools responsibilities that currently sit solely with local authorities. Allocate more resources directed to head teachers and enable them to take decisions based on local circumstances. We also will, this is in the government, we will also encourage school clusters and create new education regions to decentralise management and supports. They're also talking about to establish a fair and transparent needs-based funding formula for schools and make sure the money goes direct to head teachers. Then head teachers will have the freedom to invest the extra resources in the ways they consider will be the biggest impact on raising attainment in schools. For example, additional teachers, classroom assistants, equipment, out-of-school activities and home link workers. There is also mention of reviewing the school governance to consider how parents, colleges, universities and local employers can better support efforts to raise attainment. But it's not what local authorities do, but is this not what local authorities already do? But they are having to do this whilst facing financial cuts year on year and fewer staff. If the system is not working, you fix the good education system that was quoted earlier, and you do not go and try and undermine it and destroy it. None of these measures have been proposed by the SSTA, and not to my knowledge has any other teacher union campaigned for these changes. SSTA is in favour of collaboration of schools, but within a local authority management of schools situation. The government has embarked on cementing the National Improvement Framework that will support schools with more consistent and reliable information at local, regional and national level. The introduction of standardised assessments will help parents and teachers chart children's progress at P1, P4, P7 and, of course, S3. The NIF, as it's referred to, and the National Standardised Assessment in S3 will inform teacher judgment and provide better information to parents about how their children are progressing. And the conflict here is, but at the same time, we will publish information school by school on how many children are meeting the required levels of curriculum for excellence. Most parents really want information on their own child and how they can support that child. I question whether in reality they actually want information about comparing different schools. That's not necessarily the most important issue. The NIF has the potential to set teacher against teacher, school against school, local authority against local authority, and as Ken Muir said, if they exist, in the drive for statistics and against the need for collaboration in addressing underachievement and now allowing every young person reaching their full potential. And on top of that, the government slipped in, just on the quiet, we will also ensure that school inspections are more focused and frequent. Again, I say, SSTA did not ask for standardised assessments, more statistics on things that teacher professional judgment already tells them, or more frequent inspections when other forms of support is required. The government must stand by its words. A good education is an investment, not just in our children, but in our society and our economy too. From early years through to adulthood, we want to provide everyone, regardless of their background, with the very best chance of success in life. Our message to the government: support and defend our good education system. Choose your own policies, not those of others that may sound good but haven't always been thought through. The consequences of such policies haven't been considered, and the people who will have to implement them, the teachers, the head teachers and other education workers, haven't been consulted and in some cases not been considered. Have the courage of your convictions. Choose your policies carefully. Work with the unions. We are here to help, not to hinder, and stick by them. The SSTA is up to the task and wants to work with the government, make sure the voice of secondary teachers are heard. Thank you, Congress.